Hello everyone and welcome back to Hunter x Hunter chapter reviews. Today we're looking at chapter 409, Negotiation, Part 3. I'd like to apologize for being a bit late this week. Um, I had Thanksgiving travels. I got up at 4 a.m. this morning. It was fun. Haven't slept, but we don't need sleep. But I hope that for those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving that everything went well and that everyone's having a good week so far. So without further ado, let's get into this chapter's summary. So we return right after the declaration of martial law. Borksen notices Morena's surprise regarding the declaration and tries to deduce their location. She worries about her safety, considering soldiers could just fire on her if they deem it necessary, and decides that she needs the X card to survive as unscathed as possible. Borksen picks Deal for her next card. Morena asks for a deep kiss and outlines the three conditions of her ability. The game must end with yes. She must kiss Borksen, and Borksen must be present for Morena or a Haley member committing murder. By ability, I just mean Borksen joining the group and getting a Nen ability, or Nen abilities. Borksen agrees to Morena's offer, and they make out off screen. Unfortunately for some people, I'm sure. And it's Borksen's first kiss, which is, it's definitely one way to have a first kiss. After they kiss, Borksen checks the cards again to make sure they weren't adjusted and that no foul play took place. She confirms that no cheating occurred. Borksen then loses the X card, which is not very good for her. She picks the QA card next, and through her questions and answers, discovers the Haley's hideout is between tiers 2 and 3 and has 5 entrances. I don't think we've gotten a specific location of their hideout before, and so this is good information for us to just keep track of where everyone is and maybe what that might mean for certain characters who are on tier 2 or 3 regarding the Haley family. She also confirms the number of Morena's group, and that she'll die if she ends up with the no card. After a series of questions, Borksen asks Morena if there's any way they can compromise, achieve Morena's goals without violence, and Morena basically affirms that she will not hesitate in her goals whatsoever. Down to the last round, Borksen draws the return card, much to her relief. She's able to choose whatever card she wants now, and surprises Morena by choosing the yes card, thereby joining Haley. The chapter ends with that revelation, and we don't really know why Borksen chose the yes card, though, of course, I'll be speculating a little bit going forward. First, let's talk about some interesting panels. This chapter is mostly dialogue, so I don't have a ton of panels to call out. These two are just more humorous than anything else. Marina has gaming systems. It fits her character. The kind of conditions of her game, the card game, or the conditions of her ability are game-like with a leveling up system. She has her card game, and maybe she kind of perceives. I'm sure you could try to extrapolate some meaning, like she views life itself as a game where luck kind of determines everything. Like if she was born in a different kind of context, that kind of RNG element. I'm sure you could look at that from that perspective, though I just kind of find it funny that she does have the gaming consoles behind her. The panels after the kiss are also very funny. Marina is, enjoying. She's very flustered, while Borksen kind of looks like Pitto and kind of she went through it, I suppose. Another great example of contrast or duality here from Togashi. I think that the fact that Borksen and Reina are still kind of drawn contrasted like this right before they draw the last cards kind of leads me to think that Borksen isn't really allying with Marina, though of course we'll have to see. I think that Marina's expression here, she basically it's very similar to an expression from last chapter where she threatened Borksen, but there seems to be less of kind of the baggy kind of intimidating hollow look in Marina's eyes. Her eyes are a lot more kind of, I suppose, clear here. Um, I personally read her expression here as when she's saying that she will kill Borksen. She might have grown attached to Borksen by now, and the kind of more human expression in her eyes portrays a little bit of guilt, perhaps, at the idea of having to hurt her, and of course, killing her. Some people have speculated that when she's checking the validity of the cards, that Borksen may have nicked the return card, resulting in her choosing it. Then she crumples the cards later on, so that is some evidence to that theory. And it's worth noting here that there is an opportunity for her to have kind of marked or nicked one of the cards so she could end up choosing it later. Lastly, Morena's expression here is interesting when she sees Borksen's final choice. There are a lot of ways we can read into this. Maybe she's relieved. Maybe, I mean, there's obviously surprise, but it could also be relief. Maybe she's realized that maybe Borksen didn't end up having a choice, or maybe she's doubting Borksen's intentions. It's pretty hard to tell, but I think the fact that Togashi drew an extra panel of her pupil kind of, I'm not becoming more transparent is worth noting. She has a very unique reaction to Borksen's decision outside of simply surprise, and I think it's worth tracking, maybe going back to this expression later on when we know more about what's going on between these two. Now, we've seen multiple examples of determination in this batch. Togashi's always emphasized determination and conviction in Hunter x Hunter. The very concept of vows and limitations support the idea that power is gained through sacrifice, and sacrifice through commitment through a cause, group, or goal. This is abundantly clear throughout the arc. Kurapika's restrictions, kind of giving up his life or his lifespan, is a clear example of that. But looking just within this batch, we see Longhe's determined to stop Beyond's plans, even at the cost of a potentially innocent prince. Halkenberg's willing to sacrifice his own body and willing followers to uphold his vision of democracy, or his vision of Kakin at the very least. Chrollo, of course, as we saw in 406, is fully prepared to die in order to get his revenge on Hisoka, and Henry and Zakuro similarly want to punish Lynch's killers, even if they're the Phantom Troop, who Henry, as we know, is a fan of. He has a decent relationship with Nobunaga, but he's still kind of determined to avenge Lynch's death regardless. Morena's conversation with Borks in this chapter is an exemplification of this idea, in my opinion. Her experiences have bestowed her with such determination that she has no intention of changing her ways whatsoever. I tie her strength, her very powerful Nen ability, to that conviction. And this kind of relates to what I talked about in one of my earlier videos. I think it might have even been 401. What are people willing to die for, and how can they obtain power through this willingness of sacrifice? With the have-nots, for example. It's worth observing going forward, just very much the themes of determination, of sacrifice, and what people are willing to put on the line to achieve what they need to. It's abundantly clear just throughout all of Togashi's throughout all of Hunter x Hunter, but I think the Succession more and especially this batch have really highlighted the theme of determination. Let's do some speculation about why Borksen joined. Now, the first idea is that she was manipulated by Morena's kiss. Morena explained the parts of her ability and parts of the conditions for Borksen to join, but she might have omitted some details. Now, Morena's still surprised, so it could have just made Borksen more favorable toward her. And it's also worth considering that maybe it's a condition that since Borksen cheated, maybe she's forced to draw the yes card. And maybe this is a condition that Morena doesn't have to consciously activate. And maybe she was surprised to see that Borksen cheated and therefore Borksen's forced to join her through some kind of manipulation element of the card game ability. I don't think that's super likely. I think what's more likely is one of these next two options. The first is Borksen's looking for self-preservation. At the start of the chapter, we read into how she suspects she'll be killed by the military if she leaves Morena's lair. And also, getting Nen could help her protect herself and her friends. Morena also hasn't heavily mentioned lasting commitment. Maybe Borksen thinks she can kind of gain some strength and gain some protection and then leave the group if necessary, if she can kind of make it out alive. The other idea is basically Borksen's made it clear she's a realist who believes in change, but isn't very ambitious or passionate about making change. She could try to influence Morena from within the Haley, whether to undermine them or try to find another way, some compromise. So taking a passive insider role, but nonetheless one that's kind of opposed to Morena's ultimate goal of destruction. Lastly, we do miss a lot of the questions Borksen asked with a QA card. I don't think it's highly likely, but perhaps Morena convinced her of the cause. Borksen's last question was to confirm a compromise wasn't possible, though if forced between choosing to support or not support Morena, she might have still favored Morena's side over Kakin's. Now let's talk about the next chapter. The chapter preview reads, she, as in Borksen of course, selected yes, but what could her motives be? Knowing Togashi will likely go back to a different plotline before finding out why Borksen chose the way she did. Togashi likes to drop revelations or hints and then expand on them chapters later. I suspect an upper tier storyline going back in time to before martial law. Going by the poll from last video, you guys believe that martial law was most likely triggered by the death of a mafia prince, or perhaps Benjamin being controlled by Haukenberg. I think the former is a bit more likely, especially considering the plot against Losarus, but it's hard to tell at this point in time. It might take chapters to explain what led to martial law, and it could be actually, multiple of these or something else entirely. Now, the question here is, are we at the end of the batch? Are we going to see a hiatus after 410? If you want to be realistic, I do think we will see one, though one that's definitely shorter than the 380 to the between 390 and 391, and I still think shorter than between 400 and 401. Togashi's health seems to have improved, but he recently had surgery and probably needs time to rest. He also hasn't completely finished many of the chapters from 110 to 420. I think we'll see a hiatus around the length of the ones during Chimera Ants, so maybe 3 to 6 months. Though, of course, I'd love to be wrong, and I'd love to finish up the next chapter and see that no announcement of hiatus going straight to 411. But, being realistic, I do think we'll see a small hiatus, um, hopefully, and I don't think as long as the last few have been. Regardless, I'll see you all next week for another Hunter x Hunter chapter review. It might be our last one for a while, maybe not, but regardless, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.